Welcome to the Grants Intranet Site Training Webinar. My name is Janie Cameron and I work as the Performance Improvement Manager in the Commissioner's Office here at the Kentucky Department for Public Health. Today I will give an overview of the Grants Intranet site. I'll discuss how the Grants Intranet site got started, talk about benefits to the site, and finally how to navigate the site when applying for a grant. So let's begin with how the idea of a Grants Intranet site got started. As you probably know, DPH is on a journey towards public health accreditation. Part of this journey included work centered around quality improvement and the desire to make our agency more efficient and effective. We began a project in 2012 with the overall goal to streamline the grants process. We brought together a team with representatives from all 7 divisions who had background and knowledge regarding grants. The group also had members of the Commissioner's Office who were responsible for facilitation and group organization. During our first few brainstorming sessions, we created a fishbone or cause and effect diagram. This helped us to identify possible causes to an inefficient grants process. And as you can see on your screen, there were many factors that were involved. So our team ultimately decided to focus on what we could control, with that being having a central location where all of the necessary information would be located, as well as regularly updated, a formalized process for grant approval, and resources to assist the employees when they were writing their grants. By having the grants process streamlined, employees can spend more time focusing on the actual grant content. There will also be reduced stress on the employee by giving them the current tools that they need to complete the grant, and hopefully there will be a decreased time from start to finish for approval. We administered a survey before the intranet site was built, and then after, again, to measure our effect. So before the site, 56% of employees reported that they were dissatisfied or highly dissatisfied with the current grant process. 89% of employees had trouble finding what they needed when applying for a grant, and 82% of employees indicated that having access to a grants checklist would really be helpful. 75% indicated that having access to DPH personnel information, including the number of employees, fringe costs, and indirect costs, would also be beneficial. So after listening to our employees and helping to build a site based on their feedback, the Grants Intranet site was introduced in February 2013. And after the initial rollout, we completed another survey to gauge the success of this site in May 2013. 91% of employees that we surveyed were satisfied or highly satisfied with the new grants process, so we consider this a success. 56% said the new grants intranet site was helpful, and we had a lot of positive comments as well regarding the utility of the new grants intranet site. This site is updated annually every summer, so you can be assured that it contains the most current factual information regarding budget, demographics of Kentucky, and facts and figures that will be helpful when writing your grant. So now that we've talked a little bit about how the site came to be, let's take a look at the actual site and see how it functions. So to get to the site, you first go to the DPH Intranet homepage. So the address is chfsnet.ky.gov, and this will bring you to the Cabinets Intranet page. And so then you click here on DPH, and this will bring you up to the DPH homepage. And then if you'll scroll down, on the bottom left here, you'll see the tab called DPH Grants Process. It's best to bookmark this on your computer so you'll have easy access every time. And so here is the DPH Grants Process page. And as you can see, we've got it categorized into 4 different tabs. So Getting Started, Writing of the Grant, Helpful Documents, and then Actual Grant Submittal. So we're going to start with the Getting Started tab. It's important to remember that the process of approval for a grant generally takes about 2 weeks from beginning to end, especially if it's a new grant that needs to go to the Secretary's office. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the grants entrance form. The grants entrance form should be step number 1. This form was created by DPH leadership to let the Commissioner's Office know that a grant application is being completed and will be forthcoming for approval. The information on the form gives the Commissioner's Office a glance at what the funding is for, how it will benefit the Kentucky Department for Public Health and the state at large, as well as the names that will be given the task of writing and submitting the application. It also has a place to give them your timeline for your grant and gives them the opportunity to schedule some time on their calendar to meet with you to review your application. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the DPH grant approval flow process documents. And what we've done here is we have created a PDF that includes 3 of the documents that will be helpful in writing the grant. The first of those is the DPH grant review checklist. And this is just basically a checklist that will help you go through some of the processes for grant submission, who you need to talk to, what some of the required items would be, so just a good reference. The second document that's included in this PDF is the federal submission grant process. And this is just a Word document, again, just a more detailed information piece to tell you, timetables for your grant application, who you need to talk to, and what the overall process is. Also included in this is the DPH approval flowchart. The DPH approval flowchart is great for you visual learners to really walk you through every step in the process of the grants process. Always check with your specific division, as each division may have its own policy or required forms within. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is grants.gov. So grants.gov is a common site for federal application and submission. And so your grant may or may not come from grants.gov. It may come from ERA Commons or FDA or some other site, but for our training purposes today, we're going to utilize grants.gov. And so hopefully you're familiar with the site. It's very simple. It's just grants.gov. And if you're not already a registered user on there, you will need to become a registered user before you can actually submit your application. So hopefully it's a good idea to go ahead and check to make sure that you are an approved user. And if not, we've included a tab here, instructions for grants.gov, so that you can pull that up and just basically see what steps you need to take if you are not an approved user. So again, it has the actual website, talking about how to get registered, and just some general information there for you. And so one of the things that we're going to go through is an actual grant application. So as you can see on your screen, this is what a typical federal grant application will look like. And so it will have things such as the required documentations that are mandatory, and then it will have a place for other or optional. And so a lot of the forms that you will need for your grant application will literally be already loaded into the grants.gov application package that you will just download. So when you click on those links, it will link you to your required documentation. And so the next part of what we're going to be talking about is the actual grant content, or the writing of the grant, and this will assist you in the project narrative and the budgetary piece. So now we're going to shift to the actual writing of the grant. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the DPH paragraph overview. And so we've included a link here, and this is just basically a Word document. And this Word document has such things as the agency profile, our mission and vision and values, as well as some current Kentucky health statistics. It also has location and population served, governments. A lot of times you'll be asked about governance on your application. And so this is basically just in a Word document where you can literally just cut and paste for your own grant application. We've also included things about funding and organizational structure as well. So just a great resource for you to cut and paste into your own. The next couple of things I'm going to talk about are what we refer to as our fact sheets. So the first one I'm going to pull up is the KDPH fact sheet. And this is just basically about our agency, so it's got such things as the EIN number, which typically will be asked on a federal application, the DUNS number, number of employees here at the department. It also has very pertinent information such as your indirect and fringe cost, which is very beneficial when you're writing your budget. We've also got some links here to our state health assessment, which has a lot of good data in there. Healthy Kentuckians 2020, BRFIS district profiles, Kentucky Health Now, and the CDC Winnable Battles. We've also got information here about the leading causes of death. And so again, this is just one of our many fact sheets that our state accreditation coordinator put together for your reference. The next one that I'm going to talk about is what we entitled the miscellaneous fact sheet. So this is just basically some quick facts, such as the number of people in Medicaid or Medicare, percentage of poverty, some of the Appalachian counties in our state. So again, just a really good reference. The last fact sheet that I'm going to talk about is what we call the demographic fact sheet. And this basically is using census data and has information on population, age, sex, race, education, housing, income, things like that. And we pull all of this data from the latest census. We've also included previous years on here, so since this is the first year that we've done the intranet site, we only have 2013 data on there. And this is basically just for comparison. So for instance, if we had a change in population or an income, you can look at 2014 versus 2013 to see if that could give you any kind of information that would be applicable for your grant. The next thing that I want to talk about is the health disparity data for Kentucky. We do know that health inequity does occur in Kentucky, and so we asked our Office of Health Equity to put together just a general overview about some of the things that are occurring in Kentucky. So again, this is just a Word document that you can cut and paste. We encourage you to read this and see what's applicable for your grant. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the Kentucky Health Now website. So we have a link here to the Kentucky Health Now website, and this is the initiative that Governor Steve Beshear came out with in early 2014. And so we encourage you to look at this website and see how your grant application can be aligned with Kentucky Health Now goals and objectives as well as strategies. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is accreditation. So more and more federal funders are requiring information regarding your agency and accreditation and or quality improvements in performance management. And so grantors really want to see that your agency is moving forward with these measures to really make your programs and services that you offer more efficient and effective, and that you're truly assessing the needs of those within your state and or your community. And so we put together a fact sheet that talks about DPH's accreditation efforts and also how each of the divisions are integrated with the Public Health Accreditation Board, or FAB, standards and measures. And so you can clearly see, you could pick out any number of the divisions as well as the Commissioner's Office, Office of Health Equity, and you could just click on those and really see where your specific division or office interlaces with the Public Health Accreditation standards and measures. We also have an informational fact sheet here about the accreditation readiness team. And so this is just a general overview that, again, you could cut and paste into your grant application that talks about DPH's journey towards accreditation. So now that you have all of the information for your actual grant writing, and you are ready to now probably work on the work plan and budget. And so most, if not all, applications will have a work plan and budget justification requirement. So directions for each of these will typically be located in your FOA, or your guidance document. We have actually included a guidance document from CDC to assist you in your budget endeavor. And so it's titled CDC Budget Guidelines. And the CDC Budget Guidelines is basically just a Word document that helps to walk you through the CDC process. It also gives you some templates that you could use for your budget justification. So just a really good document. And just remember that, as part of our update on our site, we are going to have the most current updated fringe and indirects cost on the site. So, this gets updated annually by our committee. So just know that when you come to the site, it will be the most current information. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is this tab called Helpful Documents. And so what we've done here is we typically talk to the employees and just basically asked about what are some of the documents that you're typically asked on a grant application, and so we've included some of those links here. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the assurances and certifications. And so this is signed by leadership, and we plan to have this on the site and update it regularly as well. This is something that you will include as an upload into your grant application, but it's something that almost every federal grant requirement. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the EEO policy and the employee privacy policy. So you may be asked about EEO policies, or if you have any secure information or HIPAA, and so we've included the links here just for your reference. This is our privacy agreement. Again, just so you don't have to go hunting these documents. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the indirect cost rate letter. Our indirect cost rate is 21% of salaries listed in your grant, and that's basically for salaries only. And so the indirect cost rate is the responsibility of the Secretary's office at the cabinet level. And so DPH will be notified if there is any change in this information, and that will be reflected on our site. And then finally, the link here for personnel policies. So you may be asked from time to time for a grant application about a drug-free workplace policy or some other policies. And so we've just linked to the Kentucky Personnel website. And basically you can either type in what you need here, or you can scroll down. You can see that the drug-free workplace is right there for your use. So just a good link to have. So now that you've gotten all of your documents in place and you are finished with writing the grant content and you're ready for grant submittal. So we're going to go through the grant submittal tab, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is the executive summary. And so the executive summary is required in order to give leadership basically a summary of what your application is all about. And so most divisions of DPH require this for all grants, both new and continuation. The most important part of the executive summary is the funding section. So you want to make sure that your numbers match your application budget, your SF 424 form, which is a required form, as well as the amount that you will put in your request for approval form, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So secondly, your summary and purpose of your program should really be short and to the point. You need to make sure that when anybody reads this, they can pick up this executive summary and have just a general overview of what your application is all about. Always make sure that your contact information is available and that the correct person is on the executive summary so that they or you can be reached if there's any questions during the approval process, so that there's no delay. And again, we've got a template for you right here on the site. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the transmittal letter. And again, we've got a template for you here on the site, and this letter is signed by our commissioner. And we've got this template. It's on our letterhead. So you would simply just change the date and insert your information here. So just a really good template. And most of this information can really come straight from your executive summary or your FOA. Sometimes this is a required document and sometimes it's not, but even if it's not a required document, it's just a general rule of thumb that you can have this signed by our commissioner and include it as a document upload. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about here is the, as far as required forms, is the DPH request for approval form. This is probably the most important form, as it's the form that you have to make sure that you have all the appropriate signatures. It serves as the cover letter for that, and this also includes IT. And even if you don't have any IT component in your grant, you still need to send it to IT department to actually be approved. So hopefully you've gotten all of your approval documents, you've gotten all of your final signatures, and you're ready to actually upload your application to the system. And then suddenly there are issues, or maybe you have a snag in the system that's causing your application not to be submitted properly. First of all, don't panic. Hopefully it isn't 11:59 and your grant's due at midnight, but we do know that these things can happen. We hope that the information on the grant's intranet page is helpful and that you have your grant finished in plenty of time, ready to be submitted. However, if you are having some issues or need assistance, we've actually included a reference to help you. And so that's the last two tabs here. And so we have the grants.gov and the ERA Commons list. And these two lists are basically just users within the cabinet that have access to grants.gov and ERA Commons. And so if you are getting stuck, these are a good reference to find somebody on that list that you know and ask for help. So as you can see, the Grants Committee has worked very hard to bring you this great resource called the Grants Intranet page. And so I want to take the opportunity to thank the members of the committee. Without their hard work and input, we would not have this wonderful resource to share with all of you. We also want to thank you for your participation in the survey that we completed that basically assisted us with materials for the intranet site. And finally, a special thanks to Mary Mullins in the AFM division for helping us to actually build the intranet site. We want to leave you with a few resources to help you along the way and wish you the best in your grant writing endeavor. Thank you.